therapist and parenting coach. I can't wait to give you my secrets today of the 3 common errors that well-meaning parents are making that keep them in cycles of struggle. So let me dive in. First of all, let me tell you the story of when I was totally not parenting smarter and it was just feeling so hard and frustrating. I can remember it like it's happening right now. It was a beautiful sunny summer day and I was going out into the pool area with my son for his first group swim lesson. And it was a space that was a square where parents were behind their children around this square, all lining them up, sitting on the edge so that their teachers could come to them and then teach this class. And I knew my son was slow to warm up to new things, so I did my best to give a positive spin to the moment. You know, I put my own swimsuit on and I planned to get there early with him. I told him all the wonderful things that would be true about this swim class. And we got in, we splashed around a bit. I said, okay, buddy, I think you're really ready. You're going to do great. This is going to be awesome. Teachers showed up, other kids showed up, and I started to get out of the pool. And that's when it hit. He just started screaming and crying, clinging to me for dear life. He's pulling at my swimsuit, clawing at my skin. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like totally, first of all, surprised and stunned. Like, I thought we're on a good place here. And then immediately embarrassed, feeling like every eyeball watching me. As I looked around, I swear my kid was the only one freaking out like this. And I was like, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? Why are you doing this? And I found myself then dive into this bounce between like, okay, it's gonna be okay, validating, supporting his feelings. And then when that wouldn't work, I'd get over to this like, okay, I need tough love. Like, buddy, you just gotta do this. This is not how kids your age behave. You need to get this together. Then I'd feel bad about that. That also wasn't changing things. And I'd bounce back over to like validating, comforting. And all the while, my blood is just boiling because it's not changing the moment. It's not calming him down. And I just feel like so overwhelmed that, again, I have no sense of control of this moment. Have you been there? Friend, here are the key 3 errors I was making that I bet you might be making as well. Let's see. The first one is parenting from the neck up. When I was in that moment, as often parents do, I noticed a problem and I thought I should talk to solve the problem. Neck up, getting logical, getting moral, explaining why. Look, all the other kids are doing this fine. Look, this is not how we should be behaving. Getting verbal, getting moralizing, talk. Meanwhile, here I am being logical. Like if you think of the brain in the palm of your hand, you've got the logical frontal advanced place of decision-making, cause and effect awareness. Then there's an emotional system, the limbic system, and there's flipped lid, full like fight or flight or freeze. And here I am trying to be logical with a totally illogical child. He was emotionally flooded. And that's why it wasn't working. That's why it often doesn't work. Parents get parenting from the neck up. They're overly talking. And instead, what's needed in the moment from the child is strategies that are more emotional, that are attending to how to help him soothe his nervous system. So instead of parenting from the neck up, I want you to think about how you could be more embodied and connected, knowing how to connect before you correct. The second key error that I was totally making that I see happen so often for parents, it's pinball parenting. You get in this space where, I don't know if I'm dating myself, but a pinball machine back in the day, we'd pull this little lever, the ball would go up, and it would feel like you're trying to control winning the game, but you only have these 2 key buttons, and really they're moving all these levers all around. You're not really sure how they work, but you're just like doing the best that you can. And ultimately, winning the game is dependent on where the ball goes. And this is how I felt in my parenting. I had all this advice about how to be a gentle, supportive parent, attachment therapy, and tools in that area that I wanted to give to my child. And yet, I also knew things about how to hold firm boundaries. And I was learning these tools from blogs and Instagram. And I would think like, okay, I'm going to grab this tool over here, grab that thing. And ultimately, I was just like throwing things out there, but not really understanding how they worked, not really having a cohesive A to Z plan that was all put together in one place. And so I was just at the whim of like, sometimes something worked, sometimes it didn't, just like a pinball machine. And it was never me feeling truly in control of the outcome. And if that has been you, then I want to suggest an alternative to being the pinball, grabbing at things here or there, is to have a predictable plan. And when you have that predictable plan, it gives your kid a sense of security, and that's going to help you be more consistent in your follow through. And I love to help parents have this really effective, predictable plan. In fact, I've boiled down the best strategies into a 3-step process that parents are being able to apply to situation after situation of upset, meltdowns, resistance, and defiance. So they don't have to grab here, there, out of control. They master the recipe and they have more control of the outcomes. The third common error that I was completely doing in that moment with Caleb was asking the wrong questions. My friend, when I was frustrated, and every time I'd get frustrated with him, I would find myself asking, why are you doing this? Why does this have to be so hard? Why can't you X? Why can't you Y? And he would never have an answer. Of course not. He was a little 4-year-old. He was not going to have the answer of why he did that behavior. And so I started learning how to be the wise parent that knew the answers and could guide him, could look under his behavior and go, oh, you're doing this. Okay, let's guide you in this way. Oh, this is what you're doing here. And the more I understood what certain behaviors really meant that the child was looking for from me, the more I could have an effective response. And turn my question from why are you doing this to, okay, which tool do I feel is going to be most effective here? And friend, this was the roadmap to me finally having relief. And it's the roadmap for you too. I want you to start by looking at these 3 errors. Parenting from the neck up, getting overly verbal and explaining things. Parenting in a pinball manner that didn't have a succinct plan. And parenting asking the wrong questions. Why are you doing this? And think, how many hours a week have you likely lost to that pattern? How many hours have been spent in that error without even realizing that you in some ways were contributing to this cycle of struggle that you're so frustrated with? But here's the good news, friend. Since you have contributed to this cycle that when you use those ineffective strategies, they don't work, you have just as much power to start using some strategies that will work. So let's give you a tool today that is a key to sustainable parenting so that you can actually move the dial. Because I know you're busy. I know that you don't have time to waste. I know that you're sitting there thinking that you don't have time to be putting in a bunch more effort. If that's what you're telling me what to do, Flora, I can't do it. I don't have any more time. I don't have any more energy. But this is a strategy that's not harder, it's smarter. Here's what it looks like. You are going to start having more agreements in advance outside of the moment so that you're using your energy in the most effective way. You only have so many hours in the day. You can choose to use your energy on putting out fires again and again and again, like you have been, or you can choose to start spending your time on prevention. One way you can do that is to be making agreements in advance. Now, what does that mean? First of all, it's making an agreement with yourself about what the plan is going to be when certain behaviors happen. So I think about last Halloween when my kids had Halloween candy and they were begging me every day for it. Can we have a piece? Can we have another piece? Can we have another piece? Can we have another piece? And I'd get so frustrated at them. Like, the anger was because I hadn't made a plan in advance of how I was going to have some firmness. Every time they asked me for a piece of candy, I was debating within myself. I don't know, is that okay? How many pieces have they had so far? Am I giving him? Am I being too permissive? Am I being too this or that? I'm like, all these big evaluations. Why are they begging so much? Am I creating monsters? Am I creating entitled kids? Like, we go deep with our mental processing when we're in a moment and we haven't made an agreement. And it usually just leads us to give in too much or freak out, and it's not our best mode. So when I make an agreement in advance on the candy, I said, okay, let's think about this. I just chose, you can have 7 pieces a day. You can either have it all at once or you can choose to spread it out, but that's what you can have. And all of a sudden, their amount of begging and asking came way down. My amount of panic and frustration and chaos when they would ask went down because I had a plan. I could just reference back to the plan and say, what was our agreement? Have you had your 7 pieces yet? Okay. No more anger. And that can apply to so many situations. Let me give you 3 more examples with 3 key areas where I often see parents having struggle. The first is technology. So if you have not had a plan with technology and said, well, I don't know, basically I just want them to give me back my phone or turn off the iPad when I say that it's time. Well, okay, how much is that a day? Well, it depends on the day. Let me tell you, friend, that's kind of like saying, I go to work each day and I just let my boss decide how much money they're going to pay me, depending on what their mood is that day. How would that be if your boss paid you 100 one day and then 1,000 the next day and then back to maybe 200? Would you freak out? Probably, because it's unpredictable. The boundary's not clear. So make an agreement with your kid in advance about, we're going to have 1 show a day, or they're, on our drive to school, you can use my phone, but we're not doing it other times. Make an agreement and be able to reference back to it. And now here's the key. If you're saying, well, I've made agreements, I've told my kids, but then they still freak out, you have been missing this key secret. This key secret of firmness that helps you feel more a sense of control, that firmness that can have you keep your kindness. And that's tying it to a when-then. Make your agreement and tie it to a when-then. Technology, that means, honey, we're going to have 1 show in the morning, and when you turn it off without any upset, then you get to have it again tomorrow in the morning. When you don't, you won't. We'll try again the following day. Here's what it looks like in getting out the door. Honey, when you are dressed and you brushed your hair and you've made your bed, then you're welcome to have breakfast. And if you're looking for incentive to make that a little more tempting, it could be that they get to have a little bit of something special with breakfast, like frozen berries or maybe they get to watch a show on the iPad at the counter while they're eating their breakfast. So this is our deal. When you're dressed, then you get to have these things. Agreement in advance. And when you're not, you may miss out on having that. May just have a breakfast bar in the car. Third thing, staying in bed, is you can make an agreement with your kids in advance. Hey, guess what? Instead of you coming out after I've tucked you in and asking for one more thing or looking for one more thing, we're going to have a new plan. When you stay in your bed, I'm going to come back and check on you. I call this the 4 check-ins. If you're not in your bed when I come, when you're out of bed, you'll lose one of your check-ins. I'll only come back 2 more times. I have seen parents have this transform their bedtime within a matter of days. Matter of days. In fact, you can add something like the second piece, which is that when you've stayed in bed for all 4 check-ins, you get something in the morning. Whatever that may be. Maybe it's just like a full minute snuggle from mom and dad. Like often kids love that. Doesn't have to cost you anything. It's not a sticker chart towards getting a prize a week from now. No, it's right there on a day-to-day basis. So friend, this has the power to really transform your level of anger. When you have a plan, you will be able to be more consistent on 2 key things that your kids want from you. They want from you consistency and security. And I find that when I'm able to have this plan and use when-thens, I start seeing behavior get better and I'm more consistent at keeping the boundaries. And then I'm able to be a more secure relationship where I'm able to say to my kid things like, I love you and this is the boundary. There's not a risk of them seeing mommy be so upset and saying things to them that I regret. There's the security that mom's in charge. Mom has a plan. All right, here we are for part 3 of the Calm Confident Parenting Workshop. And I'm going to be giving you the best question to end your daily battles. You are not going to keep asking the wrong question, which is, why are you doing this? And why can't you be different? Friend, the right question, the best question to end your daily battles is, are you ready to scrape your driveway now? Are you ready to scrape your driveway now? Let me explain. I live here in Montana where we have snow come down and it's a lot of work. You're like legally required to shovel the driveway and the sidewalk especially so that people can walk on the sidewalks. You have to do it every time it snows. And sometimes I get out there and put all my gear on and I shovel and it's a lot of work. It's like you get sweaty. It's hard, especially if a lot came down. But you do it and you're like, okay. Sometimes then it'll snow again. And I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this today. And so I'll not deal with it. And guess what? Often then the temperature will drop. It turns into like a sheet of ice. And then I'm battling against that the whole rest of winter. Like instead of it just being hard because I'm scraping, it's double hard because I'm scraping and fighting against this like bumpy layer of ice on the bottom. And I wish I had just scraped my driveway when it was the easiest. And I gotta tell you, that's right where you're sitting right now. That if your kids are under the age of 13, you're at the easiest phase you will ever be at to make an impact in their future. You're at the easiest phase you'll ever be at to change patterns in your relationship and to be able to help them know how to manage their emotions better, to be able to help build their skills of how to solve problems and be more self-aware and thinking on their own. You're at the best phase for them to really understand boundaries and know how to thrive within those right now. And so I want to invite you to the gateway to truly having all that you need to be that calm, confident, equipped parent you always wanted to be. It's so simple. I offer a mentorship program where you have a self-paced course, so you get all my very best secrets. You have mentorship with me personally, a licensed counselor right there as a sounding board, answering your questions, helping you solve the problems that are coming up. And you do so in a community of other parents who give you more accountability and encouragement and validation that you are not alone. The only thing it requires of you, friend, is that you claim it for yourself. No one else can do that for you. No one else can take the step to say, yes, I deserve this. I deserve every bit of happiness. I deserve every tool that I've been missing in order to be able to get my child more cooperative. I deserve it. And you do, friend. You totally do. So let's get started.
It's been life-changing for Shannon and I, and how we parent and what I've seen out of his reactions to how I would normally enter a situation.
But we don't have an easy one, and this stuff really, really works.
And there were a lot of things I didn't think would work, and I'd be like, no way, but I'll try it. And then it did work, and I was like, oh.
I just love that the transformation happened. Honestly, I did. I'm so surprised. More calm, more confidence, more joy, better communication, better relations, better adjusting your expectations, changing your mindset. It's just so fun. And then it's just so fun to see the spouse kind of catching on and the kids catching on. And then all of a sudden it's like your whole household is starting to imitate or mimic that modeling. And it's literally like these gears that keep moving. And then all of a sudden other relationships start to kind of turn to. Just so many good things, but I just want to apply this model for change in other areas, because I just think it was so easy and powerful.
The process of starting it definitely opened my eyes to, like, sometimes you can't give each other the advice that the other needs, and to hear it to collectively from another source cannot be underestimated.
So it's been one of the best investments. I've done a lot of things to invest in my family and myself, and it has certainly been one of the best investments I've made, for sure. I'm watching myself undo patterns that are generations rich, and that feels huge, and it feels really hopeful. One other thing is that the way that Flora has structured it with these, 2 sessions in the week, and then you get, depending on, I guess, what level you choose, you get like a one-on-one. It feels really rich and full. And so each week I feel like I'm practicing something, and then I can have an accountability, and then I can check in on it. And so I really feel the traction.
I just had felt so scattered in the way I was approaching my parenting that kind of paring it down was really, really helpful for me. It just kind of helped me come up with with tools that were concrete and easy to use, and that I didn't feel like some parenting books had told me every kid's going to need 15 minutes a day. And so I'm like setting a timer and moving from room to room, and then we're late for bedtime because I'm not getting enough time in with every kid, that 15 minutes expectation that I had set for myself. And then I felt like a failure. So when it was all in one place and much simpler, then I was able to start seeing success a lot more. And happy mom is happier kids. You know what I mean?
What I would do was utilize my kindness and be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind. And then I'm getting stretched too thin. And then I would explode into monster mom so bad. And it was so confusing for my toddler, because he was like, Mom, you were being so nice. And then all of a sudden, you're monster mom.
Yeah.
And I could not keep parenting like that. It was not effective. It was straining our relationship. It was straining my husband and I's relationship. I went to my husband and I said, it's time for us to make some changes. how do you feel about this? And it took him a couple days to come around. But once he started seeing me implementing what I learned from your webinar, he was like, okay, I can see how this is gonna work for us. And so he jumped on board, and ever since then he was just like, I can't believe that, you know, he's like, this has just been worth every penny that we've paid. And for my husband to say that is huge.
It's just helped out so much, and just staying calm and being perceptive to their emotions and how they're feeling, and they just respond so much better to me, and that's helped out a lot.
Kids, and it always seemed like the only focus of our family was trying to manage children's behavior. Rachel and I never got time together. We didn't go on dates very often. We didn't get to do a whole lot of things together because we were always just moving from one child's emotional upset to the next child's emotional upset, or sometimes all four.
Like I was tired of fighting about parenting and not having kind of a united way to deal with things, and so that's been a whole lot better.
Basically, in conclusion, I'd like to say that while things are definitely not, you know, cookie cutter perfection, they are a lot better, and we're more on the same page. The kids are more aware of what to expect, and they're also becoming a lot better at recognizing the causes of their upsets and working through those upsets on their own.
But with each thing we learned, I found my confidence growing that, hey, kind of whatever happened, we could figure this out.
I mean, before Zach and Mary would go at it and I would just like freeze and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is not good, but I can't step in because he started it. Now it's pretty calm and mellow. We're on the same page. We can kind of see where each other are going.
I would say do it. To anybody who's thinking about it, just do it. I mean, it's worth every penny to not have to fight with your kid, to be able to just talk to him and just get him to do what you want. It's worth it. It really is.
It's been the best decision of my entire life to have that closeness and not go through the everyday motions, but be their mom, you know, and have them look up to me and know that I really care and I want to listen to them. And that's what this program's brought for me.